we have Eduardo Repilloza Fernández, who is the General Director at Transparencia Electoral. He's going to talk to us about election integrity in Argentina and transparency deficits of subnational election management bodies. Over to you, Eduardo.
Thank you, Sonali, and thank you, everybody. Can you confirm you can see my screen?
Yeah, that's great.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, we do appreciate the space in the conference, and we do appreciate everybody who has joined. Today, I'm going to present the conclusions of one of our main studies that we actually just published. But I'm going to be highlighting one of the conclusions, which is the transparency deficits of subnational election management bodies in Argentina. As you may know, Argentina is a country that is highly decentralized, has a highly decentralized election administration system, pretty much not as much as the US, but perhaps as a federal country, as much as Brazil and Brazil and Mexico is perhaps more similar. I'm trying to just pass the, and it's not allowing me, so just give me, there you go. So the objective of the index that we built around election integrity in Argentina, this is actually the third edition that we have published, takes into account the conditions of the 2021 elections, which is the previous election that happened before the study, and the changes that have happened to electoral systems at a subnational level until 2023, until now. And the index, what we try to do is assess the levels of election integrity in each province or state to make data-driven recommendations to improve the quality of elections and strengthen democracy. The methodology is pretty, well, perhaps this is a long story made short, but the document on the methodology is online, and everybody's welcome to check and let us know their comments. Basically, we base the analysis in 3 dimensions: election legal framework, equality in access to political rights, and democratic competitiveness. The index then uses 3 categories to classify each province: low election integrity, moderate election integrity, and high election integrity. The electoral legal framework basically is an analysis of the rules under which elections are held in each state or each district, where opportunities and threats of subnational democracy are identified, and the way in which these determine the election results. Also, the equality and access to political rights, it includes the indicators, media coverage analysis, which we try the sample that we take, we try to make sure that each, we select 2 media outlets, regional media outlets, and we try, for them to be, for the coverage that they do, to be as balanced as possible. Of course, this can't really be ensured. So what we do is that we ponder the score is not the same that we give to the media coverage analysis that we do to other indicators that are included in the election legal framework, for example. But it does help give us an idea of what's happening on each level in each district. We also include a perception of specialists, which is basically a survey that we do of specialists, election experts here in Argentina for each district. And then we assess the level of access to information, which is one of the points that I'm going to be highlighting here. Also, democratic competitiveness is a variation of a subnational democracy index, which is actually not it's not an index that we devised. It's actually an index proposed by Carlos Gervasoni, which is a professor here in Argentina, who is well known for studying democracy at the subnational level. So here, what I try to do is usually just give everybody an idea of what support for democracy as a political system in Argentina has been like since 1995 to 2020. This is not data that we have gathered. This is The source of this is Latino Barometro, which many of you may know. It's a well-recognized survey that is based out of Chile that actually does, gather this kind of social preferences by country, right? So one of them is here in Argentina, 67% is the percentage of people who believe that up until 2020, democracy was preferable to any other form of government. And what is actually worrisome here is that 17% of these people that were surveyed, they believe that, for ordinary people, it doesn't really matter if it's a democratic regime or not, because it doesn't have any consequences on ordinary life, right? And also another 15% does believe that in certain particular circumstances, an authoritarian government may be preferable. So the same happens with satisfaction with the way that democracy works in Argentina. Up until 2020, the percentage that expressed or felt that they were satisfied or more so-and-so satisfied with democracy, with the way that democracy was working, has been shrinking significantly, as opposed to those who feel that they're not at all satisfied or not very satisfied. That is basically one of the reasons why that's justification behind the index is this, right? This climate in which people start to believe that democracy is not always the best form of government, that it depends on the conditions and the situation. One of the main changes to subnational election systems since 2021 have been one, governments still use state level governments still use some election engineering devices, such as Ley de Lemas, which is basically a system that makes a general election work as a primary. Basically what it does is that it computes votes for other candidates within the party. So it's like an election for parties instead of candidates. That's again another long story made short, but it's a tendency here in Argentina. In fact, 2 more states started using this contraption, this mechanism in their provinces to kind of maximize political capital and kind of tilt the field in the favor of the government. The candidate suitability field, there's 5 provinces. Not everything has been bad. 5 provinces have implemented Ficha Limpia, which is basically an initiative that is meant to guarantee the candidates haven't been condemned for particular crimes. It ranges from corruption to sexual abuse, and so this, we believe, is a good it's a good indicator, and that is how we evaluated positively. The provinces that have adopted this initiative, we do tend to evaluate positively. So voting instrument, as it regards to the voting instrument, there's 6 provinces who have implemented a different voting instrument than what is used on the federal level, which we do believe has a lot of vulnerabilities and does not guarantee does not guarantee a fair election for all parties. So we do tend to evaluate in a positive way that these provinces have implemented the single ballot, which is basically a ballot that gathers all the candidates and all the election offer in just one ballot, as opposed to the one that is used on a federal level and in the rest of the provinces here in Argentina, which basically fragments the election offer, and it becomes it's a very cumbersome instrument and and has a lot of vulnerabilities.
2 minutes.
Yeah, so regarding the data analysis, basically, what we discovered is that more than 20% of the irregularities that are reported on the media, basically they use or they abuse state resources in favor of one party or in favor of the government. And then also more than 20% is related to the instrument, to the voting instrument. These is basically, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here, but this is one of the ways that we assess the election systems on a state level. As you can see, on when it comes to opening election data, most of the provinces don't have, most of the EMBs just don't really have any kind of program or initiative to open election data. And this is the result of the map. Basically, it's a heat map of what of how we believe or how we assess election integrity in each of the states. You're welcome again to review this on our website. But the conclusions of the study is basically that the voting instrument is too vulnerable and does not guarantee a fair competition, which is what we have seen in what the media gathers in each for each election. Citizen election observation is not regulated by law, which allows for important discretionality in its application. In 2021, we had a few issues observing elections here in Buenos Aires and here and also in one of the provinces. The figure that is used here is very limited, and it's not very known by any, not even the staff that administers the election on each polling station. Opening election data is not part of the EMB's agenda, which is a concern of ours. And election system engineering is still a common resource of subnational governments to in their favor. So the lack of open election data, basically what the risks and concerns that we identify is that first, EMBs need to build capacity to collect and publish data, which requires resources, which they don't have. Also, there's a limit to the data that domestic election monitors, such as Transparencia Electoral and other academic groups, can gather on the ground without the EMB's involvement. So this compromises our ability to promote data-based policies to improve the quality of elections. And then third, but perhaps the most, our biggest concern is that these data voids that are created by the lack or the absence of quality data online generally feed into disinformation campaigns. Argentina has been exempt in some way to the fraud narratives that have been going around in the United States, in Brazil, in Mexico, Colombia, but some of the things, these data voids that we see are forming here in Argentina, which is substantial, we do believe that is a risk for disinformation campaigns to perhaps gain ground or gain force in election cycles, and it only takes just one actor to kind of activate these threats. So that's one of the things why. How do we move forward? One of the things that we're going to be advocating for. It's not only the change of the instrument. It's not only regulating domestic election observation by law, which we've already been doing for a number of years. But we do believe that opening election data is really, it's one of the things that we're going to be advocating for, because it's one of the risks that we identify for election systems as a whole and the subnational level, but also on the federal level here in Argentina.